The coffee is cold. I don't mind it cold. When you've spent 14 months in the Central Highlands, you learn that hot is a luxury and cold is just the way things are. It's 5:47 a.m. here in Harlan County. The sun hasn't cleared the ridge yet, and the air has that sharp, damp bite that reminds me of the mornings before we'd head out on patrol. Except here, the only thing moving is the occasional coal truck down on Route 119. I'm 75 years old. My name is James Earl Proctor, but everyone around here just calls me Jimmy. I've got a pension from the mines, a house that leaks when it rains too hard, and a letter from the Veterans Administration dated 1972 that I keep in my shirt pocket. The letter says there is no evidence of drug dependency. I've been clean for 42 years, but I keep that letter because it's the only proof I have that they knew exactly what was happening to us, and they chose to look the other way. They sent us to a jungle to fight a war that didn't have a front line, and then they acted surprised when we found the only thing that made the jungle go quiet. It wasn't a choice. It was a trade. My sanity for $2 a day. I grew up right here in Harlan. My daddy worked the Black Mountain Mine, and my mama cooked for the Baptist Church. I was a linebacker for Harlan High, class of '69. I had dreams of a scholarship, maybe playing for Kentucky, but the draft board had other plans. In 1970, I was 19 years old, and I was stepping off a C-130 into the heat of Phu Bai. The heat. You don't forget that. It's like a wet wool blanket wrapped around your face. I was 101st Airborne, Screaming Eagles. I was proud of that. I went because it was the right thing to do. My wife, Patsy Ann, was 3 months pregnant when I left. I told her I'd be back before the baby could walk. I believed it. I believed everything they told us back then. But the war, it wasn't like the movies. It was waiting. It was mud. It was losing people before you even knew their middle names. Bobby Ray McQueen, he was from Harlan too. We went through basic together. He died at Firebase Ripcord 3 weeks before I even got to the base. That was the first thing the war took, the idea that being good or being brave mattered. The first time happened in August of 1970. We were near Ripcord. There was a young Vietnamese girl the guys called Lan. She sold cigarettes, fruit, and soda just outside the perimeter. Ray Castillo, a guy from El Paso in my platoon, he pulled me aside one afternoon. "Hey, Jimmy," he said, "you want to sleep tonight? Truly sleep?" He showed me a pack of cigarettes. They looked normal, but they'd been dipped in something. We called it number 4. White heroin from the Golden Triangle, 90% pure. Back in the States, the junkies were lucky to get 5%. Over there, it was everywhere. It was cheaper than a can of Budweiser. $2 for a pack of chicken cigarettes. "It doesn't smell like nothing, man," Ray told me. "The MPs can't detect it. It's clean." I took one. I smoked it behind the barracks. For the first time since I landed in that country, the screaming in my head stopped. The humidity didn't matter. The fact that Bobby Ray was in a box didn't matter. I slept for 14 hours straight. No dreams, no mortars, just silence. The next day I bought 2 packs. By the time my daughter Tammy was born in March of 1971, I wasn't smoking it anymore. I was snorting it. And by the end of that month, I was using a needle. It's a strange thing, what a war does to your morals. Back in Harlan, I'd never even seen a needle that didn't have a doctor on the other end of it. In the 101st, we were sharing them. We'd sharpen the tips on stones when they got dull. We'd rinse them with swamp water. We didn't care about infections. We cared about the next 20 minutes of peace. The heroin in Vietnam wasn't like the stuff you see on the news today. It was pure. It was odorless. It was a military-grade anesthetic for a generation that was being ground into the dirt. The government knew. Of course they knew. They saw the numbers. They saw the guys nodding off on guard duty. But as long as we were out there humping the rucksacks and pulling the triggers, they didn't say a word. It was the silent habit, until it was time to go home. In September of 1971, Nixon decided he didn't want 100,000 junkies landing at Travis Air Force Base. He called it Operation Golden Flow. Every GI had to give a urine sample before they could board the plane back to the world states. If you failed, you didn't go home. You went to a detox center in country for 21 days. I remember the day of the test. I was terrified. I'd been using number 4 every day for a year. I spent 3 days shaking in a bunker, drinking water until I thought I'd drown, trying to flush it out. I passed. I don't know how, but I passed. I got on that plane. I had my papers. I was clean according to the United States Army. I landed in California, took a bus back to Kentucky, and walked through the front door of my mama's house in Harlan. Patsy Ann was there with Tammy. The baby was 6 months old. I looked at my wife, and I looked at my daughter, and all I could think about was how much I needed to find a dealer. That's the part they don't tell you about Operation Golden Flow. They detoxed us on paper so the public wouldn't be outraged. They cleaned up the appearance of the problem before we touched American soil. But they didn't do a damn thing for the men inside the uniforms. They sent us home to towns like Harlan where the mines were closing, and the only thing left was the ghosts of the friends we left behind. I tried to be a father. I tried to be a husband. I got a job at the Harlan County coal mine in 1972. I worked the face. I carried the weight. But every morning at 4 a.m., the jungle would come back. I'd hear the choppers. I'd see the tracers. I found a dealer named Earl Frazier. The stuff he had was garbage compared to the number 4 from land, but it was enough to keep the ghosts at bay. For 4 years I lived a double life. I'd go down into the mine, work 10 hours, come home and wait for Patsy and Tammy to go to sleep. Then I'd go down into the basement with my kit. Patsy found the needles in August of 1975. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there in the doorway of the basement, holding a box of old Christmas decorations, looking at me with my sleeve rolled up and a belt around my arm. "Jimmy," she said. Her voice was so quiet I almost missed it over the sound of the furnace. "Is this what you brought back with you?" I couldn't even look at her. I just sat there. She stayed for 8 more months. She tried to help. She took me to the church. She took me to the doctor. But the VA, they were the worst part. I went to the clinic in 1972, then again in 76. I told them I was struggling. I told them what happened in Vietnam. They gave me that letter. No evidence of drug dependency. They said it was nerves. They said it was readjustment. They refused to admit that the war had created an epidemic. If they admitted I was an addict because of the war, they'd have to pay for the treatment. so they just ignored it. Patsy divorced me in March of 1976. She took Tammy and moved to Hazard. I didn't blame her. I wouldn't have stayed with me either. The next 8 years are a blur of gray and black. I lost the job at the mine in '77. I'd shown up late too many times. I'd almost caused an accident with a continuous miner. They let me go, and I didn't even fight it. I just wanted the severance pay so I could buy more. I moved into a trailer. I worked odd jobs. I stole from my mama once. 1978. She was sitting at the kitchen table, counting out the money for the rent. I came in, shaking, needing $40. I asked her for it. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the woman who had cooked for the church for 30 years look at her son like he was a stranger. She didn't say a word. She just put two $20 bills on the table and pushed them toward me. She didn't look up again. I took the money. I walked out. That was the lowest point. Not the needles, not the divorce. It was the silence of my mother. She knew. She'd always known. And she knew there was nothing she could do to save me. I got clean in September of 1984. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't a come to Jesus moment. It was Curtis Dawson. Curtis was a vet too. 101st, just like me. He was from Albany, Georgia. We met at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting in a basement in Lexington. He was the first person who didn't look at me with pity. He looked at me with recognition. "Jimmy," he said, "the war's over. You can stop fighting now." Curtis died of AIDS in 1990. He'd contracted it from a shared needle back in the late 70s. He was only 40. I stayed with him at the end. I watched this man, this warrior, wither away to nothing because of a war that had ended 15 years earlier. Before he died, he made me promise something. "Don't let them win, Jimmy," he whispered. "The ones who sent us there. The ones who gave us the number 4 and then called us criminals. Don't let them have your life too." I haven't touched a drop or a needle since the day I met Curtis. 42 years. I have hepatitis C, diagnostic in 1991. They say I got it from a needle in 1970, maybe from Land's cigarettes, maybe from Ray Castillo's syringe, maybe from some nameless guy in a bunker near the DMZ. It lived inside me for 20 years before I even knew it was there. I did the treatment in 2006. Interferon. It was like having the flu for a year straight. My hair fell out. I lost 30 pounds. But I cleared it. The virus is gone, but the liver remembers. It's scarred. It's tired. Just like the rest of me. My daughter Tammy is 53 now. She's a nurse in Hazard. She calls me every Sunday at 6 p.m. We talk about the weather. We talk about her kids. She never asks about the war. She never asks about the basement in 1975. And I don't tell her. I don't tell her that her father died in a jungle in 1970, and a stranger came home in his boots. I don't tell her that the only reason I'm still here is because I'm too stubborn to give the government the satisfaction of seeing me die in the gutter. I still have that $2 Vietnamese note. I keep it in a little Ziploc bag in my pocket. I bought it on the internet a few years back. It's the same kind I used to buy my first pack of chicken cigarettes from Lan. Sometimes when the morning is quiet and the coal trucks haven't started yet, I take it out and look at it. $2. That's what it cost to break a man. That's what it cost to turn a linebacker from Harlan into a ghost. Operation Golden Flow was a success for them. It kept the streets clean. It kept the optics right. It let them pretend that the war stayed in the jungle. But it didn't stay there. It came home in the blood of every man who survived. It's in our livers. It's in our nightmares. It's in the silence of the hollows of Kentucky. The sun is coming up now. I can see the mist rising off the mountain. I'm going to finish my cold coffee. I'm going to go inside and take my pills for my back and my nerves. And then I'm going to live another day. Because that's the only way I can win. I was a soldier. I was an addict. I was a ghost. But today I'm just Jimmy Proctor. And that's enough.